I read the motion standing by my name that the Legislative Council recognizes the importance of advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion within science, technology, engineering, and mathematics sectors in our state. B, acknowledges the unique position of Western Australia to lead the nation in STEM innovation. C, commends the Cook government for its commitment to progressing equity, diversity, and inclusion in STEM through a range of targeted initiatives.
Members, Hon Dr Parwinder Kaur has moved that motion, and the question is that the motion be agreed. Hon Parwinder.
Thank you, President. It is absolutely an honor today to move my very first government motion, specifically in this week when the whole nation is celebrating the National Science Week. As I have made a lifelong commitment to serve the science, not just creating new knowledge, but also make sure that everybody and everyone, wherever they come from, they have a unique opportunity to be able to part of this service to the entire world. For me, it is standing in this new role, but having the same mission to ensure that science and innovation is for everybody. And National Science Week is a great reminder for all of us. Specifically, I'm not sure how many of you had an opportunity to look around or be participating in some of the National Science Week activities that are being celebrated around us in Western Australia. I have been going to some, being able to participate as much as the time allowed in this busy sitting week, but there are some really vibrant activities that are being held around us in our areas. So I highly encourage all the honourable members to please engage with the activities of the National Science Week being held. Science is not just about discovering or finding new solutions or creating new knowledge. It is about people. And it is about opening doors, breaking barriers, and making sure that the brightest ideas can come from anyone and everywhere, anywhere. But before I start talking about STEM, which is an acronym which is not something which is easily accessible to everybody, I would like to take a moment to reflect with all of you what STEM is all about. As it stands, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It would be lovely to see everybody studying these disciplines in the education system, but as much as I've learned in my life, it's a mindset. It is a mindset that helps us be curious about things, learn about things in many different ways and perspectives. I have been loving the debates that we have been having in this house, and a lot of times, a lot of science has been referred to. Interestingly, sometimes only a part of it is mentioned in the speeches and the debates as it suits the narrative. However, science is a lot of facts, and we really need to be able to present the entire picture to be able to provide that information to the next generation. It blends curiosity, problem solving. I hear a lot of problems every day we talk about. The world is all doomy and gloomy. It's all coming to an end. However, in the very formative years of me starting to learn in the STEM disciplines, the first thing that we have been taught and trained is to look at the problem as an opportunity, because there is always a solution. And the world and the problems and the complex problems that we have been talking about in this chamber, they're not black and white, and nor does the science is black and white. There's a lot of different spectrum available into that. And that brings me to talk a little bit about diversity and why do we need those spectrum of perspectives to be able to engage effectively and make this a way that we solve the problems. So as I mentioned, and all of you know, that science is part of our every single moment of our days. The moment we wake up in the morning, we brush our teeth, the products that we use, the air conditioning that keeps us comfortable, the roads and the rail tracks that take us to our workplaces and many other places in this world. And also, the way we connect with each other. This is all being powered by science. And so does the different people when we talk about diversity. I know when we talk about diversity, normally the first thing that comes to our mind is gender, right? But being a geneticist, I would like to share this with all of you, that gender is probably the last thing that comes to my mind, because a news for my male colleagues in this chamber that the Y chromosome's been shrinking really, really fast, and the nature selected for the X chromosome. There is a lot of work that has been done in Australia itself proving that, and the rodents have actually lost the Y chromosome completely. So probably not something that we need to worry deeply about. I'll be very happy. I don't want to take more time on this one, but I'll be very happy to discuss all my calculations and timelines in terms of how much time my male colleagues on this planet have got later today. But let's come back to diversity. So diversity is about neurodiverse people. People who do not probably fit in the mold. We talk about people who are culturally and linguistically diverse. We talk about the perfect age to do science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's about access, where you are living. What is your postcode? Are you living in regional versus an urban space? It's about, for all of these different people coming from different socioeconomic places, to be able to access science, to be able to think like a scientist. If they don't want to become a scientist, it's perfectly fine. Because that is what we need. We need people in this world who are curious, who look at the problem as an opportunity so that they can build better solutions for our tomorrow, so that we can build a better nation and not just use science to suit the narrative that we would like to prove to the rest of the world. And this is really, really important, because we want to build a future that is worthy of that talent and the times that we are living in. I'm really proud to stand here today in front of you, as in my past life as a scientist, I was given an opportunity to do a diversity in STEM review. And I would really encourage all of you, this is freely available on, if you just Google diversity in STEM review. This was commissioned by the Albanese government in the last term in 2022. We delivered the review. I was one of the 3 panelists with Sally Ann Williams and Michaela Jade to deliver this, where we have interviewed thousands of people, and Western Australia was reflected as a leader to this nation to bring that diversity into the STEM fields. We are leading by example in this nation. And I would like to share a lot of programs with you guys, but before that, I would like to say thank you to a few people. As a scientist, when this opportunity to do this review came my way, I had more than a full-time job at the University of Western Australia. It wasn't really possible for me to dive deep into the policy and do a full-time review, but that was the time the doors were opened for me to be able to deliver this on top of a full-time job, because I got access to the government departments, which was made available by our current leader of the House, but also the Minister for Science and Innovation. And that is something that I deeply admire getting access to all the materials so that we were able to deliver this review for the nation. But and it was an amazing opportunity for me, who's lived the STEM ecosystem in this Western Australia, and why I choose to stay here in Western Australia, because our ecosystem is absolutely leading the nation and in many respects leading the world. So why we need to make these STEM more diverse? A lot of us think that it's a moral responsibility, it's the right thing to do, but let me share that it is also the best economic case to do. There's a lot of studies, and there are references in this report that if you would like to take a look, I would refer you to page number 20 to references 2 and 3, the Intellectual Property Australia study in 2023 and the BlackRock November 2023, Lifting Financial Performances by Investing in Women. So education, education, and education, specifically from educating the women perspective and vocational training and lifelong learning. That's what we identified as some of the systemic barriers that we can remove to be able to bring people onto that. And according to the Australian Intellectual Property Report 2023, it was confirmed that gender and cultural diversity underpin innovation in Australia. A lot of diverse organizations don't just perform well, but they outperform. And the study showed that a 29% greater return on assets by the workplaces which were more diverse as compared to the ones who were less diverse. So is that actually a real problem? I would like to share some number with you. There's a lot of data that is telling this very, very clearly to us that it is indeed a problem, because we have, when we looked at different organizations and the diversity, only 36% of the university STEM students were women. Around 5% of STEM students were living with a disability. And fewer than 1% of the First Nations people held a STEM qualification. And they are known to be the oldest scientists on this country, with a wealth of knowledge which can be made accessible to the modern science. We heard from countless individuals. I just recently I went to Albany to represent Minister Whitby for a NIDOC event, and that day I had an opportunity to share a young girl going to year 9 was sitting next to me, and she worked on a strawberry farm in Albany, so she was very excited to talk a lot about strawberries, and I had an opportunity during my PhD to work on one of the strawberry diseases. So we got into a really good discussion, and at the end, she asked some fantastic questions, and I said to her, Bella, have you ever thought of becoming a scientist? I think you should study in the university and do a degree in this. You'll make a fantastic scientist. She looked at me. She's like, a scientist? Me? I'm not that smart. I'm not that clever. This is real, and this is not the first time I've heard that. I've heard that from a number of students that I get to interact in the primary schools. Very early, a lot of students, and it's not just the women or the girls I'm talking about, a lot of them, they decide that going to university or doing science or becoming a scientist or being part of the STEM disciplines is something very elite thing to do, which is not that everybody and anybody can do. And this problem does not require millions of dollars to fix. It's a systemic issue. We need to be able to tell our next generation that they can be whatever they want to be. It does not require them to be the most clever people on the planet to become a scientist. And I think that's where the leadership and the government can play a very important role to become role models for this next generation. Australia is a very multicultural community. We have a lot of the best and the brightest in the world who are coming to study here. And I'm sure I'm not the only one to meet a lot of Uber drivers with medical degrees and the top engineering, been to the top engineering college in those parts of the world and coming here and driving Ubers. That's another systemic exclusion that we have seen.